City of Aztec City Commission meeting for July 28, 2020. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Commissioner Randall has agreed to the invitation, and Commissioner Padilla has agreed to do the pledges. So thank you, folks, and turn it over to y'all.
All righty. Pray with me, please. Dear God, we thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity we have to come before you and ask for wisdom and guidance on behalf of our city, and be with us this evening and help us to make the best decisions for the good of our town, Lord. We pray that you especially watch over all the students and teachers that are fixing to head back to school under something different than what they're used to. We pray for guidance for all the families that have a lot of hard decisions to make. There's a lot going on through our country right now. We just ask that you continue to look over us, bless us, and be with our leaders and families, and help us to make the best of what we can, Lord. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America,
to
to the republic,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of Mexico,
The symbol
of perfect friendship among the United States.
Okay, thank you again, folks. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snober, Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Here.
Commissioner Padilla,
here,
Commissioner Randall,
Here.
Commissioner Lewis,
here,
all present.
All right, next up is approval of agenda items. If there are any items that do not meet the approval of being heard on this evening's agenda, remove those items. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda as given.
Mayor, I move to approve this evening's agenda as given.
second,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up is consent. Like feedback there. All right. Moving on to consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda will be voted upon with one motion. If any item proposed does not meet the approval of all commissioners, a commissioner may request that the item be heard under items from consent agenda. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as given.
Mayor, I move to approve this evening's agenda as given.
second,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Carla, do we have any citizens' input this evening?
We did not have any.
Okay, thank you. Moving to business item A, Resolution 2020-1193, FY21 Annual Budget Adoption. Mr. Mueller?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. That's the annual budget adoption for FY21. That's, of course, what we discussed in the workshop. Now's the time if there's any follow-up comments or questions on the budget adoption for this next year.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of covering it. Thanks again to the finance department and especially to our finance director, Ms. Lang. But does anybody have any additional comments or questions or anything they want to add or discuss before we vote on this?
no,
Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for business item A. Anybody?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 2020
1193 fiscal year 21 annual budget adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carl, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Business item B, Aztec Museum FY 21 funding request. Mr. Mueller?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Commission. This is the funding request for FY 21 for the museum. I've invited Jack Scott, who is with us tonight. He is the president of the museum board. And I'll turn it over to Jack now if he wants to present his funding request or say any words. So, Mr. Scott, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Basically, it's pretty well covered in the agenda package. And we've been here before with most of you. So you kind of know what's going on, I believe. With the virus and everything, we've been closed basically, according to the governor's order, under museums. And she apparently is going to make an announcement later in the week, possibly, but none of us know whether she's going to open up or continue the shutdown. And we did apply for PPP funding. We've gotten some of that, but because we can't open up and can't have people working on site, we've expended very little of that money. We got, I think it would ultimately ended up with $5,900. And we have until the end of the year to spend that. But if we can't get people working, we can't spend it, and we'll have to return it. Are there any questions that I could cover? And I realize that funding for the city is like funding for the museum, basically.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Scott regarding funding or any kind of ancillary issues related to the museum that might affect this decision or their on funding?
I would like I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem, please.
I wonder if you have any other fundraising opportunities coming up, and if you have any other options for funding for museums. I'm terribly worried about the city's finances, and I'm just feeling really concerned about funds that we let go of in these uncertain times. I just wonder what other plans, backup plans you would have, Jack, for the museum funding.
Basically, a lot of our funding comes from basically the people coming in. We charge $5 for adults and donations. And because of the virus, because of people out of work and everything, and because we've been closed, that has come to a screeching halt. Our investments, again, for the same reasons, are not bringing what even they brought in last year. So in answer to that question, we're trying to figure out, because we haven't had people working, we haven't been spending money on salaries, but the bills for utilities and phone and everything continues. So those we are continuing to pay. We replaced the awnings, got all of that going, and had contracted for it. The awnings out front, had all of that done before the virus shut down. And because we had already committed that, we spent over $2,000 on post condoms that had just deteriorated and were rotting away.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know who that was. Did that kind, we had hoped to have a combined program with the Historical Society, and we had to cancel that. We're gonna hope that we would get some donations going. It was a really, really good program. When we open up again, we'll reschedule. Of course, we haven't had the students come in this year because everything goes back. So we're in limbo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't answer your question, but I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, I understand. I think we're all in limbo as to what we should do.
Mayor, I have a question and comment, please.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Padilla.
You know, I think that the Art Museum Association really helps the tourism aspect in the city of Aztec. And I think my question is if we did some now, and down the road, could we come back and redo some? Just to hold them on till we find out what the state's gonna do. I don't know their financial situation, but I, for one, don't want to lose what we have because they have done a super, super job with that. So, I looked at Steve when I made that question and, you know, and I agree with Rosalind that, you know, financially the city's tight. However, if we can do some now and maybe come back, when things change and if they need some more, go ahead and do some more. And that would be, you know, the way I would look at that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would like to maybe weigh in a little bit, and I know we did this in the past, and then, you know, and I would say due in large part because of the COVID-19 pandemic stuff, that a lot of this stuff has kind of been pushed to the back burner, and a lot of our meetings have turned into, you know, a little bit shorter affairs, with the exception of the last one. But I know in the past, there was an effort that was being made between city staff, and I don't want to, I'm pretty sure Mayor Pro Tem had some input with this, when we were trying to figure out a way to combine the visitor center and the museum, and I still have not let that go personally. I'm just speaking for myself, and anybody else is willing to chime in as necessary. I still think we need to find a way to make that happen. And I'll be honest with you, my thoughts are this is kind of a little bit of a friction point for me because, and I could be completely mistaken, and please don't misunderstand. I don't mean to sound like I'm pointing fingers or anything. I just feel like there was a little bit, at least a little bit of reluctance on the museum's folks' side to try to make this happen. And whether that's completely true or partially true, I still feel like that's something that really needs to kind of, we need to figure out a way to get that done. And I think it could be done, but I'm not a, you know, a curator. I don't have the expertise of storage on some of these more historical items. I certainly wouldn't want to see them be ruined just out of happenstance and just kind of shoving them somewhere to get them out of the way to make room. But I also think that we could take a sober look at some of the things that we have, and some of them maybe are not serving us as well at the museum as they might have in the past because of age or wear or both. Maybe there's a way we can archive them or something like that, or do a virtual sort of thing. But that's kind of where I am on it. I really want to see that. And I know we can't do it right now because of distancing and budgeting and things like that, but that's kind of where I am on it, if that makes any sense.
I'll speak to part of that maybe. the last that I remember on that was that the city was going to come back with a different proposal. And it's been, what, a year and a half, 2 years now since these discussions were taking place. But at that time, the city's proposal was they would come in and take over the whole upstairs. And we would have to move everything out. The city would have control over a small, in the north room, to where they would take our artifacts and set them up so that when people came into the visitor center, that would be moved from the present center up on the museum. They could see that there was a museum, but the museum would be shifted downstairs as far as the office and everything dealing with the museum, which would mean that there would be an access problem for the museum. The bathrooms would be upstairs, so even if we could bring people in from one of the gates out there, which would be a problem too, there'd have to be some system where they would call ahead so we could open up down there. So yeah, the museum board voted no on that proposal. There were, and I could go into detail more things, and again, it's not the time here with your meeting right now, but there were some major problems. And one other aspect was some of your staff did not want to move up there. They wanted to stay where they were. So we'd be quite willing to reevaluate, come and look at a different proposal, and try to work something out. Also, the city was, when they closed upstairs, or no, when we were not open, we had wanted city staff to be able to allow visitors to the museum to go through their staff and visit the museum. The visitor center staff said no, they would not do that. But we would be expected, if they were closed, to take care of anyone that would come in needing their services, which we do somewhat anyway. We don't. We try to send people down, go to the back window there, point out where the building is for the visitor center, send them down. We agreed that we would put up display case there with the brochures and everything so that they would be available in case people coming in looking for directions to the ruins or whatever would have access to those if they didn't want to go down to the visitor center. But yeah, I don't think it's completely shut down, but we can't really give up the whole upstairs.
Mr.
Okay. Understood. Yes, sir, Mr. Mueller?
Mr. Mayor Commission, I can get with Jack and we can begin to revisit that, starting.
Yeah, I don't expect that we're gonna sort that out in this meeting. I just wanted to bring that up. It is a point of contention for me as far as continuing funding and helping, doing things for the museum. And I did have another quick question, Mr. Scott. Our last funding approval and prior to, so it was last year, I guess, late summer, midsummer, have, as far as numbers of visitors and things like that, and things that have been done by the museum board to improve traffic maybe? Is there any initiative? Well, I'll first ask the first question. It's kind of a two-part question. Are we getting an uptick in visitors, a noticeable uptick, steadily, consistently, maybe just a burst here or there? And is there any kind of initiatives that the museum's trying to do to maybe do something virtual, maybe partner with, and I might be exposing my ignorance here. I don't know if there's much on the city website or anything, any kind of page or something that folks can visit prior to visiting Aztec, partnering with the visitor center to drive traffic there. And if there is, I apologize for not knowing it. I probably should know that, but so I guess two-part question there. Is that very clear? All right.
Yeah, we have an active Facebook page that is visited by a lot of people. We try to post to it regularly. Email page, the city's website has a link to and advertises the museum to any visitors wanting any information that way. Have an answering machine that we try to check. If we have employees there, it's checked throughout the day. And as we've been closed, since we aren't allowed to have our employees on site, I try to get over there and check both the email and the voicemail and respond to them. We have a lot of good response on things that we post, historical stuff on the Facebook page and the website. It's more of an information thing rather than a continuing posting. It's pretty well set. The visitors coming to Aztec can get on that, see what we have, what we offer, has information on how to contact us. And we have just redone that. Aztec Media has just redone that website for us. Does that kind of give you an answer to?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And I am curious about visitor numbers last year prior to this. I mean, and I know it's slow for everybody, but maybe summer, Labor Day area,
I'd have to get back with you on that. I don't have that with me. And, yeah.
Okay.
I think up, but there again, when we lost the school visitation, that's a lot of the kids.
I think in the last, from probably this year wouldn't be very accurate numbers, and I wouldn't expect, or I personally don't think that would be fair to use that as a metric for any kind of funding, because everybody's going through that stuff. I just meant, maybe the last 2 quarters of last year sort of thing. And if you can find that out, I would appreciate it. That, if you wanted to email it to me or whatever, just a rough estimate, maybe a percentage of increase or decrease or holding steady or whatever would be enough anyway. And if I could ask one more question, and I apologize, I don't want to draw this out too long. I appreciate your time and you joining us, but what specifically do you use the money for?
That I do have, basically. And
I mean, I'm not asking for a dollar by dollar accounting, just, the general kind of topic or subject or, line items, whatever you want to call them, that you would attribute to the funding that the city provides.
Okay.
I think he froze.
Did he? Yeah, he might have lost his connection. I think he lost his connection.
I think we're having connection problems with Mr. Scott.
Yeah, it looks like the screen's frozen up.
Yeah.
Well, in the interim, while he's trying to reestablish his connection, does anybody, unless there are questions directed to Mr. Scott, I guess we could kind of do a preliminary discussion. I don't want to kind of close this on him because of connectivity. But does anybody have anything they would like to be in part due to some of the stuff, some of the questions I had, that the Mayor Pro Tem had? Hey, Jack, are you back on there?
I'm trying to send him a text, Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Randall. I saw you unmuting there.
I was just, as far as discussion goes, I'm in the same boat with you guys as far as, concerned about fun. I know we've actually been given more than the last couple of years than we had in years past. And, I've gained time to go back to a more minimal amount.
Kind of like what Commissioner.
I was,
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead, sorry.
I was kind of thinking of a minimal amount like $5,000 and then relook at it when we know our own finances, later in the year, review it again in January or so forth. But that way they would have some basic funds for some immediate expenses, and then if they've got the $6,000 that they need to expend by the end of the year, that could be helpful for any salaries if they could open back up. But the fact that they're not even open, is another situation.
Yeah, I'm kind of on that too. I mean, and I'm not, I don't want to just say, well, you don't need it, so we're not going to give it to you. I want that kind of communication line, that door to still be open, to revisit, because this isn't necessarily the one and done chance to get funding for the year, because we've done this, I think 2 years ago, we came back and gave them a little bit more than we had in our discretionary fund, because it was pretty much, and I'm open to that, but I'm kind of trying to fill a little bit here, but I do feel like, about, because as a reminder to folks, the commissioners, we all voted on this as well. It's MRA, which doesn't mean that's not like a law, we're not bound by law to adopt everything on there, but it was in there as a strong point in one of the things to do with to marry those two up and get our visitor center on Main Street. And to be quite frank, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, I think that's a higher priority personally. In my opinion, and speaking for myself, I think to have the visitor center on Main Street is a higher priority than to have an archive of the museum. And the Pioneer Village, I think there's a way it could be done, and I know that there's going to be folks that walk away from that negotiation unhappy, which to me is kind of a good negotiation. If you don't, you got everything you wanted, it's probably a relatively fair deal for both sides. Hey, Mr. Martinez, there you go, thank you. So that's just kind of what and I do think it's important to have, that visual historic representation, kind of touching on what Commissioner Padilla had brought up early. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is pretty cool back in there. Something you can bring youth groups and little kids in to give them a little taste of our history. But we're also looking at budget issues as well. Commissioner, go ahead.
You're bringing up a good point, and it's been talked about for years and years. What is your plans for that building down there? The city of Aztec owns that building. What would you want to put down there? Now, I agree there should be some kind of a little closer communication, but I know the chamber's wanting to move down there. Is that a good place for that? I agree with Rosalind, and Rosalind said exactly what I said. We give them some now and then see what happens down the road. But, what you're proposing or what you're trying to say, and I don't remember it ever being that issue, but what would you propose for that building? I mean, I don't want another eyesore in the city of Aztec and our park.
I'm sorry,
Well, when we were discussing that a couple of years ago, there were several ideas, because the city is short of space in different ways, and I remember one comment being made about IT being in that building. So I'm sure.
How many of you actually know the history of that building? Do you guys
Well, the
know?
chamber used to be there, but.
Do you know the history, how we got it? That's my question. I'm waiting for an answer. Do you?
All right, there was a little bit of talk over there. Could you say that one more time? I
I would like
apologize.
to know if you guys know the history of how the city of Aztec got that building.
And you're saying the museum.
No, I'm saying the visitor center.
Oh, I do not know all the history on that.
Okay, I would be glad to explain that.
My concern with that visitor center is that it's a little bit, off of the beaten path. It's not really a flow of traffic thing that you would come to, you know, coming through town and you wonder what's going on in the big city of Aztec, that you would kind of naturally get drawn over to. And that's my concern. It's not necessarily the building itself. I'm sure we could probably find one to occupy it, you know, a city department maybe. I don't know all of that. So no, I don't know the answer to that, Commissioner.
Well, I would be glad to explain how we ended up with that. And it was a huge project for the city. The city got it. The state decided they were going to fund it. And I think Jack will back me on this because he was a commissioner when all this happened. We got that
Yes.
building and we put it together. The governor came down and dedicated it to the city. Well, then the state decided that they didn't want to fund anybody to do that. So myself and Dick Dial, who was my mayor pro tem at that time, went to Santa Fe and argued with them. And the state turned it into a tourism, and that's what it started out as, a tourism. The state said, well, what do you want to do with the building? And I said, well, sell it to the city. And they said, how much? And I asked how much. And we bought that building for $1 from the state. You know, and I don't want to see it turned into something that can't be utilized with tourism, because that's what it was originally dedicated for. And I think that, like Roslyn had said, we do some now for the museum to kind of supplement until that time, and then we come back and we look at it. But I do not personally, and I don't think the citizens would like the idea of what you're saying is, you know, get rid of that building down there because it still has some eye appeal.
No, I don't necessarily, and I agree, and I'll just, you know, I don't think that to get rid of it is necessarily the answer. I think we might be able to find another use for it, and I don't know, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds because I do in principle agree with what you and what the mayor pro tem have brought up, to give a portion of funding now, and I think we're all kind of on the same page with that. And then we can revisit this stuff when we have a little bit more information, a little more opportunity to sit down across from one another and rework some of these things. And we might come to the same point to where it's not going to work. You know, I'm not suggesting that it's got to work. I just think we should take another crack at it. So I'll kind of table that part for me personally now. But I still do think that we should do some level of funding for the museum. So if that's acceptable to everybody, we can, you know, maybe just kind of put that to bed for now and then come back to it, you know, in the future when it's a little bit more pressing.
I'm good with that.
It looks like.
I'm sorry.
My back's on.
Yes.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
It seemed that the internet was, and then.
We're making any big decisions without you.
Okay, then it came on that I dismissed from the calls because of the slow. So, back to your general question. Utilities run us about $4,257, and this was for January through December 2019. Insurance, maintenance of grounds, supply. Oh, wait, that was included in this 4,000. No, it wasn't. Utility for the 4,000. Insurance runs us around 2,000 a year. Maintenance of the ground, about 500. Supplies, about 2,000. Wages and salaries, basically right at 30,000. But this coming year, we had tried kind of a full-time when we were open person, and we're going to go back to part-time just because full-time can't be justified with the number of visitors that we're getting. And we're gonna do some adjusted when we open as far as the hours, days. We are not gonna try to go into October because by October, visitation just falls off to nothing.
Right.
Does that kind of give you an idea?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add before I close discussion and entertain a motion? And again, thank you, Mr. Scott, for attending and give us the info.
You're welcome.
Hearing none, I would entertain I'll close discussion and entertain a motion for business item B.
Mayor, I move to approve funding to the Aztec Museum in the amount of $5,000.
I second it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, commissioners. I need to pull up my land use hearing. Sorry, I'm having to scroll back, so bear with me. And as I'm doing this, I just want to kind of remind folks to try and mute, especially once we get into the land use stuff, because the commissioners are a little bit more familiar with this format lately because we've been doing it for a couple of months now. But some of the folks that are dialed in that are either, just watching the meeting just to be, just to be informed, or if you're here because you want to, you're part of the land use hearings this evening, kind of bear with us. I'm going to go slow. This is our first land use hearing that we've done on this in this format that isn't a live in the commission hall type of meeting. So and we'll do our best. And if we have to back up and redo it, we'll back up. We'll take our time and do it right. But when you do get asked to swear in or to give comment or anything, when it's your turn to talk, as far as your testimony, I'm going to ask, because not every one of them has names on there. I see one with Mr. Martinez, and I see a Lori. I'm not exactly sure if all those folks are here for this. So please identify yourself. And then we'll kind of walk through it as slowly as we need to make sure everybody gets to say their piece, okay? So I appreciate your patience in advance. And just bear with us. We'll get through it, okay? But the first thing I need to do, we have two quasi-judicial hearings or use hearings tonight. One, item A is application for zone change from the mobile home zoning district to the limited retail neighborhood commercial C1 district for a property located at 214 West Zia Street. Those folks here, is there anybody at Mr. Mueller?
Sir?
He's got muted. All right.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I think I hit my mute accidentally. Is there anybody in the chambers that is present for the land use hearing portion?
No, sir. It's all going to be remote.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So the folks that are here for item A for the 214 Zia Street, are they present on this call?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We got Frank and Ernest Martinez.
okay, gotcha. Is there anybody else, an interested party, a witness?
Yeah.
Yes, there is one.
Yes, it's not for the 214, but it's for the 525.
Okay, I'm going to get to that next, but thank you. Thanks for telling me. Now we also have item B, application for a variance to minimum parking for a dwelling. City of Aztec section 26-3-171 and the requirement landscaping requirements. section 26-3-152 for property located at 205 South Main. And do we have those folks? I know we have one. Are you the applicant, ma'am?
No,
Okay. Is the applicant for 205 South Main on the call?
Oh, 303 Park Avenue.
303 and 305 Park Avenue.
Okay, but you're not the applicants, right? You're just interested parties.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and read my script. Mr. Gobble, I know you're muted right now, but if you see me kind of getting a little off here, please stop me and have me restart or whatever so I can make sure we don't waste these folks' time and have to reschedule this because I did something wrong.
No, you're fine, Mr. Mayor. I'll let you know if we need to do anything differently.
All right, thank you. Okay, folks, this is our land use hearing procedure kind of script that we read. The following hearing procedure is for all hearings on tonight's agenda. Land use hearing registration form, and it's not located at the clerk's table, but we've already kind of gone through that. But those of you who wish to receive a copy of the results from this hearing, you must provide your full name and current mailing address in order to receive a copy of the land use hearing order. If you wish to testify and provide comment on the matter at issue, you must register with the clerk on the land use hearing registration form and be sworn in with the staff, the applicant, identified parties, witnesses, and interested persons. Carl, I would just ask that you, as we go through the different folks, the applicants, interested parties, witnesses, et cetera, that you make sure we get their names and stuff like that for the minutes and for the record, please.
Yes.
The meeting tonight will be conducted under procedures mandated by the New Mexico Court of Appeals and Battersea v. City of Albuquerque, which are intended to protect the due process rights of all parties. Under this ruling, the following procedures will apply. Parties to the meeting will be identified, as will any witnesses. The parties may wish to give testimony, as well as any interested persons wishing to testify and provide comment. City staff has a responsibility to assist the commission in fully developing the meeting record and may testify. All persons offering testimony will be sworn in by the clerk, mayor, or city attorney who are authorized to administer oaths. All persons offering testimony will be subject to cross-examination by commission, city staff, and the parties to the hearing. Testimony will be limited to the relevant matter being heard. Our procedure, the item to be decided at tonight's public hearing are, first one is an application for zone change from mobile home zoning district to limited retail neighborhood commercial C1 zoning district for property at 214 West Dia. And then the second one is application for a variance to the minimum parking requirements for commercial space and residential dwelling units. City of Aztec, section 26-3-161, and the landscaping requirements, City of Aztec, section 26-3-152, for a property located at 205 South Main Avenue. Testimony will be limited by myself. Identification of parties for the purpose of this meeting. Applicants are defined as other persons may be designated by the commission as parties if they can show to the satisfaction of the commission that they have an immediate pecuniary or direct interest in the outcome of the meeting. Witnesses are those persons designated by parties to present testimony on their behalf. Interested persons are those persons interested in the case, but not identified as either a party by commission or a witness by any party. Aside from the applicants and city staff, are there any persons who wish to be identified as a party to this or these items? So, other than the applicants, and I think we only have one applicant tonight, the Martinez's, is that correct? For the first one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, other than them, and I think the other two callers for the second item, the second land use hearing, need to identify themselves for the record as interested parties.
Okay, my name is Sandra Maestas, and we own the part on I can't remember the address exactly. It's either 303 and a half or 305 South Park Avenue. And I'm an interested party in this situation because
What's your
our
first
land.
name? What's your first name?
Sandra.
Sandra, okay. And the other caller that also,
My name is Carlos Gonzalez. Going to 303 Park Avenue,
okay,
South
thank
Park
you.
Avenue.
Carla, did you get those okay?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. So we got the names and so did you get the addresses as well, Carla?
I did not, but it's recorded.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure. And to the commission, we have this on our staff summary, the land use hearing registration form, as far as what we need to know surrounding the hearings. And it's a little not unconventional because we don't have the actual sign-in sheets in front of us like we normally do, but I think it's pretty limited, so we don't have a bunch of people, so I think we're okay. Does anybody have any objections from the commission? Are we still good? You can give me a thumbs up or, okay.
We're good.
Just for the record, Mr. Mayor, we have Steven Saavedra for the city.
Yes, sir, I see him popped up there. Okay. We are moving into the land use hearing part of this meeting. Is there a challenge to the jurisdiction of the City of Aztec Commissioners to hear any of the hearings on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, I will take that as a no. Checking with the commissioners, seeing none or hearing none. Okay. Next item, are there any conflicts of interest or personal biases to be declared by a commission member?
No.
For me.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Unmute Commissioner Fry.
Nope.
Okay. I saw you shaking your head. I just want to make sure if we had it on record. Okay. Have there been any ex parte contacts regarding the upcoming matters that a commission member needs to declare? None for me.
No.
None for me.
Did we, Commissioner Padilla, I think I heard you. I just want to make sure Carla's good.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. So this is going to be the tricky part. So we'll staff the applicants, parties identified, and now this goes for both items tonight, not just the first one. We're going to do a telephonic or kind of virtual Zoom sort of, okay? So I need you to raise your right hand, and I'm going to assume that the callers are doing the same.
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of perjury? Say I do or not.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Yes.
I
Okay,
do.
let the record show that everybody answered I do in the affirmative. Okay. All right, testimony evidence must be directed toward the applicable federal, state, or municipal laws. There's a little something missing there, or regulations or criteria which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford us and other interested persons an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal on that issue. So essentially, if you have an issue, a specific grievance or issue or something you want to bring up, please make sure you do it and that we are clear about the concern or issue during this hearing. Otherwise, we're not going to kind of reboot and do this over again. This is your opportunity, okay? Any party as identified by the commission may request a continuance of this hearing if able to provide documentation or evidence in support or opposition of the application in addition to what was available at the time the notice of hearing was provided. In the conduct of land use hearings, unless there is a continuance, if a participant so requests before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, The record shall remain open for at least 7 days after the hearing. All right, we are almost done. Thank you for your patience. The order of presentations. The staff will summarize the staff report to the extent necessary to enable those present to understand the issues. The commission members may ask questions of the staff. Cross-examination may be done by the applicant and parties. The applicant, to include their witnesses, have up to 15 minutes. The commission members may ask questions of the applicant in cross-examination by staff and parties. Witnesses may be cross-examined but do not have the authority to cross-examine. Parties, to include their witnesses, have up to 10 minutes each. The commission may ask questions of the parties. Cross-examination by staff and applicant. The witnesses may be cross-examined but do not have the authority to cross-examine. And finally, interested persons have up to 5 minutes each. Commission members may ask questions of them. And cross-examination by staff, applicant, and parties. Interested persons may be cross-examined but again do not have the authority to cross-examine. And then we will close the hearing to testimony. And the commission will then open up the issue to discussion with the commission. Then we will make a decision and issue findings of fact and conclusions of law, move into closed session pursuant to New Mexico Statute 151H-1, the Open Meetings Act exception, or continue the public hearing until a specified time, or take the matter under advisement and announce their recommendation at a specified time. I know that's a lot. So does anybody have any questions? And I'm specifically speaking to the Martinez folks and the callers for the second item.
No.
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 And if we get a little off and a little confused, we can stop, because this is new for us too. So we want to make sure everybody is comfortable with the proceedings, okay? All right.
Okay.
So we are going to start with the first one. It's item A, and I believe this is the one with the Martinez's. Application for zone change from the mobile home MH zoning district to the limited retail neighborhood commercial C1 zoning district for property located at 214 West Zia Street. Mr. Saavedra, if you would please take it away.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Commission. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully that will kind of get us back to our presentation style. So let's give this a try. Can everybody see the screen okay?
No.
No, not at all.
I can't see no screen.
Let's try this one more time.
There we go.
There
Can everybody see the screen now?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so let's get this started. So zone change 20-01 is a request from Frank Martinez and Ernest Martinez. And this is a zone change request from the current zoning district MH mobile home to the requested district C1 limited retail neighborhood commercial district. The subject property is approximately 0.16 acres. And prior to, you see this yellow building, this is what's currently sitting on the property right now. So in 2017 or 2018 approximately, there was actually a mobile home sitting on this parcel. But the property owners removed that mobile home, and as a result, just this metal building sits on the property. As a result of moving that mobile home, unfortunately, the property owners left the property in a non-conforming status, as the mobile home district allows mobile homes, not commercial storage buildings by right. Now, within the mobile home district, with the mobile home placed there, this building was allowed under an accessory use. However, since it's been removed and it's the only building sitting as the primary use, right now this use and the current zoning are in conflict. So this area right here is where the mobile home used to sit, and these are the meters associated with that residential dwelling unit. All right. So of course, with any and all zone changes, there's plenty of standards and questions that we all go through to make sure that this isn't arbitrary, that if the request is sufficient and it's in with the goals of the city and the community at large. So right here you see the mobile home zoning district surrounded by commercial to the north, office and professional and institution to the west, and the mobile home to the south, and again, O1 to the east. So up front, this request does not constitute a spot zone, and that's one of our big criteria when we're looking at zoning is it a spot zone, yay or nay? Simple answer, it's not. So this is to give you an idea of what it looks like right now, current times. So this is to give you, this is getting cut off just a bit. This is to give you more or less what the MH district allows. So one mobile home and a residential accessory use. And then there's a provision with 26-2-1 where it states that you can have an accessory building. And that metal structure that was there was allowed, but now that it's been removed, that's where we have the issue with zoning. And so right now, the property owner has a conflict and they can't do too much with the property. If a bank was to ask, is everything in good standing? We'd say it's not. And so the request is to get the zoning and the use in conformity. All right, so just as the FYI, the subject property is in the MRA district, and within the staff report, there was some notation related to this area within the MRA. There's specific questions to that. I'd be happy to answer it, but just FYI, it's in the MRA district. So this is just an aerial view to give you a sense of the subject property, where it's at in relation to other properties. And of course, right now, we've only heard from 2 interested parties. One of the interested parties called and just asked for some more information pertaining to the zone change request. They did not indicate if they were in favor or if they supported the request. The other call, the same thing, did not indicate if they were in favor or supported the request. However, they just asked that if the property owner would be so kind and to remove the spray paint, as they indicated that was devaluing the area and not making it so wholesome. I believe that request is appropriate. And with that being said, staff is recommending approval of the zone change and the following conditions. If and when there's a significant remodel, they would just have to adhere to city code as like any other property owner, unless they were to seek a variance. And we're just asking to be a good neighbor, as one of the interested parties had suggested, and just spray paint over that spray paint for sale sign. And with that, I will stand for questions.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Padilla.
I drove by Frank's place today, and he's already taken care of that, spraying those boards and stuff. And it looks a whole lot more professional than what it did. And it looks to me, in walking around the building, that they're doing a little bit trying to clean up that lot. So, I think that since it's should be in the commercial zone right in there because it's attached to it, and I commend Frank for jumping up early, even before it has that recommendation, and taking care of that issue that came up. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner. Mr. Mayor, City Commission, just one thing I forgot to add, and I think it's very important as we're doing the assessment on the zone change, and it was in the staff report, but for anybody that's on the call, is that our comprehensive plan, our current comprehensive plan, 2002, was very critical of the MH or mobile home uses and districts. And so they encouraged zoning outside of that. And I think that has to be duly noted when we're making any type of recommendation, is to follow the comprehensive plan. And this would in all respects be in line with the city's current comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saavedra. I appreciate you making that addition. Okay, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Saavedra? I'll ask Commission first. I know Commissioner Padilla made a statement already. Anybody else? I'm seeing heads shaking back and forth. I'll give the applicants an opportunity. Mr. Martinez, do you have any questions of Mr. Saavedra?
No questions. We're trying to clean up the lot, and then we're wanting to make a little shop out of it, or something for tourists, they're talking about tourists. So that'll help with our grocery receipt taxes in Aztec. And it'll help the city of Aztec quite a bit. We're all getting close to retirement around here, so we're gonna open up a little shop.
All right, sir, thank you. And I guess we can kind of segue into your opportunity to present. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add, Mr. Martinez, to as an official kind of presentation as the applicant. So I'll go ahead and give you the opportunity. You have up to 15 minutes I don't know if you need that much time, but take up to that.
So in regard to our cousins, that's Carlos Gonzalez. He was one of the other callers, and Sandra Maestas. One of the things that we're trying to do is our grandfather, their grandfather, and our grandfather, we're all first cousins. They split the property up, and when they did so, we all share meters, we all share the property, basically. So the city of Aztec asked us to remove the mobile home in order for them to allow us to start getting utilities separated. So the way it is now, Carlos Gonzalez and our shop, those utilities are together on one water meter. And Sandra Maestas, and I think where the mobile home was behind the shop, those were on a separate water meter. So now the Maestas property is got its own meter, and the Gonzalez property has its own meter, but the shop is unable to get anything until we don't have any utilities until we get the zone approval. So basically, it's until we get some kind of zoning that falls in line with the city guidelines, we can't have any utilities there. So basically, it's just going to be an empty building unless we're able to get a zone approval.
All right, thank you, sir. Did you have anything else to add? I didn't want to cut you off.
No.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Do any of the commissioners or staff have any questions of Mr. Martinez?
No.
Seeing Commissioner Padilla? I don't know, I see the mic kind of going back and forth. I just wanted to make sure.
No, I'm good,
Okay, thank you, sir. And I'm not seeing anybody else unmuting, so I will go ahead and move to the next. And thank you, sir, for that. Mr. Saavedra, did you have any questions? Okay, I saw you shaking your head. So next would be witnesses. And I don't think we have any witnesses for this particular one, but we do have interested parties. And I believe those are the folks, Ms. Maestas and Mr. Gonzalez. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And we'll do ladies first. And ma'am, if you want, you have up to 5 minutes as an interested party.
Okay. I have no problem with anything they're saying. I just wanted to make sure that it was understood that the property behind our rental was on our meter whenever they had the trailer there. And I just wanted to make sure the coordinates were right, because the fence that's behind our house is not put in the proper location. We still have 10 feet over from what it was placed. And that's all I wanted to make sure of.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Maestas? Any of the commissioners or staff? We'll do that first. Mr. Saavedra, to speak to that just briefly, I mean, that's not really something that we're wading into on this, as far as fence placement and property lines and things like that. But that, I'm assuming that would be something that they would have to do, separately, of course. It doesn't affect the proceedings as far as I can tell.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. You know, of course, anytime there's an encroachment of property on another property, that could always be an issue. But without seeing a survey or a survey stake, it's hard to identify where the said property begins and ends. And so that's the type of verification and documentation that we would need from either property owner, just to make sure that we don't have any encroachment issues. Typically, though, that's a civil issue when there is a property owner and a property owner issue, and the city really, doesn't get involved unless there's an encroachment on city property.
Right. So that's a standalone issue outside of these proceedings, but it's noted, of course, and I'm sure that it'll get worked. I hope I know. Mr. Gonzalez, or I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez, do you have any questions of Ms. Maestas?
No, we'll work with them and make sure everything's done properly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Maestas. Mr. Gonzalez, yes, ma'am. You have up to 5 minutes, sir.
I'm not opposed to what's going on. Don't change throughput. I have no problems with it. Want to go to commercial, that way they can get their decision. I'm not going to oppose it.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gonzalez? Anybody from staff or commission have any questions for him? Hearing none, Mr. Martinez, do you have any questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
No.
Okay. I think we can go ahead and, does anybody have anything they need to add? I just want to make sure before, because I'm getting ready to close this particular hearing to all testimony so the commission can open discussion. Hearing none?
No, I have nothing. None.
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate your patience. We'll go ahead and close this hearing to all testimony and now open up discussion amongst the commissioners. So here we are. Does anybody have anything they would like to add, Mayor Pro Tem? I saw you unmuted.
The staff report was very clear, and it just, it all makes sense. So I don't see any problem with this change in zoning.
Agreed here as well. Commissioner Lewis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. After reading through the staff report, it was very clear and very concise and explained very well. But I think it's going to be a plus because the property will be able to be used in an appropriate manner and in conjunction with our master plan. So I think it's going to be a good thing.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Randall, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it kind of checks all the blocks. It opens up a property that can be used, and somebody's going to put a little bit of TLC into it. The neighbors can be going on. It fits our our comp plan, and I can't imagine even with the new comp plan that's starting that it's going to be a significant change from that. So I think we're in pretty good shape personally. So unless anybody has any more comments from the commission, I'm going to close discussion to this item A, this land use hearing A, and ask for a motion.
I move to approve. I move to approve the zone change 20-01, a request from Frank Martinez and Ernest Martinez for a zone change from the MH Mobile Home District to the C-1 Limited Retail Neighborhood Commercial district for property located at 214 West Zia Street, Aztec, New Mexico, with the following conditions. Adhere to city ordinance COA 26-3-152, district landscape requirement should a significant remodel occur. And number 2, spray paint removed on the board windows.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye?
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you very much, folks. Those of you that called in for this, witnesses, applicants, and interested parties, appreciate your time and your patience with us. And we are going to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your considerations.
And I am feverishly scrolling back to the agenda. Please bear with me. Okay. Quasi judicial hearing B, application for a variance to minimum parking for a dwelling, and the landscaping requirements for property located at 205 South Main Avenue. Is there anybody on the call, an applicant, a witness, or an interested party regarding this particular land use hearing? I want to get that up first. I don't think there is. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Saavedra, and this will be shorter, I think.
Right, Mr. Mayor, City Commission, variance 20-01 is a variance to the minimum parking requirements and the landscaping requirements for property located at 201, 203, 205, 207 South Main Avenue. Also, 100, 104, 108, 110, 118, 120, 122, 124, 126 West Chusca. This is a mixed-use property. It comprises of commercial and office space in the front and residential in the back. So before I get started, I just want to say that the variance requirement, what it is if no one, or I'm sure everyone already knows, but if anybody is listening out there, is that city code basically is black and white, but as we all know, we live in a world full of color, and a lot of times city code is in conflict with what individuals want to do with their property, and so that's why the variance provision is there. Now, with the variance provision, it's not about, hey, this requirement to the code is going to cost me X amount of money, and I don't want to pay X amount of money, so let me just get a variance. That is not what a variance is about. That would disqualify the process from the. Second, it's not about convenience, where if you got to do X, Y, and Z, and that's going to be too hard or too long, I just don't want to do it, so I'm going to take a variance. That's not what a variance is about. A variance is specifically about a specific hardship that's unique to this particular piece of property, that this property or this property owner cannot enjoy the same rights that other individuals are allowed to do. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. The applicant is in the process of remodeling this structure located on the screen. In fall of 2019, this property experienced a fire, and as a result, all the occupants had to leave the property. So as it's moved through the process, the property owner is seeking to remodel and fix up both the residential and some of the commercial up front. Property owner is Christopher Engel, and the property is approximately 0.24 acres, and the property owner is requesting a variance to the minimum parking requirements and the landscaping requirements. So the parking requirements for one residential dwelling requires 2 parking spaces. So if you got one house, you need to have 2 parking spaces on your property. If you have one apartment, you got to provide 2 parking spaces. And so right now, the property owner indicated that there is going to be at least 13 residential units. So as you can imagine, there's going to be quite a bit of parking that's going to be needed on the property. In addition to that, city code states that if there is a remodel with a valuation of over 30,000, landscaping requirements kick in. So in addition to the parking, the property owner would have to provide landscaping. So all the parking that has occurred prior to this remodel has actually been all on city property. It's all along Main and all along Chusa. So these are the codes that specify the requested variance. And this is the area as it was. This is an aerial photo as of 2019. And as you can see, most of the property, the structures encompass most of the property. So there's very little room prior for parking and landscaping. So the structures were completely built out. So this is what was before. This is what it is now. Unfortunately, some of the structures, due to the fire, could not be salvaged and had to be demolished. Just to point out, this is within our MRA district. And so before getting into some of the requirements of the variance and our recommendation, I wanted to note that within the landscape code, very deep down there, I think it's in your, well, it is in the staff report, there is a provision that states that if 90% of the property is utilized by structures, they do not have to meet the parking requirement. Don't know why that was in landscaping, but that's in there nevertheless. Now, why the property owner has to go through all these hoops, if that code is in there, is that the plan that was submitted to the city is very, well, is somewhat vague, and has to be, I think, has to be corrected to identify the number of units and the exact percentage of structures that are going to encompass that property. So with that unknown, city staff recommended that the property owner get the variance and go through the process. And through that process, we went through one by one of those questions. And as you'll note with downtown, most of the parking outside of Citizens Bank and you see Rubio's and some other places, most of the parking is provided by the city or the state. As you can see, these apartment units, and even these mixed-use apartment units. So they meet that requirement. They're trying to utilize what everybody else is trying to utilize, basically. The second thing is if they were to adhere to the parking requirements and the landscaping requirements, and unfortunately, most of the property, or a lot of the structures would have to be, would go away, basically, to account for the parking stalls and the landscaping. So looking at, city recommendations from the past within the MRA, different plans that the city has, the city was trying to encourage affordable housing. So in theory, if you have more supply, then you should have a lower price in terms of just overall housing units. So building it out would add that more supply of additional housing. That being said, there's still a couple of things that the city needs from the property owner or the architect. We need to identify, if we're going to recommend approval, and that's what city staff has, is we need to see clear and detailed construction plans, not only just of the units, so we can see that percentage of the built-out structures, but also we need clear and concise understanding of the utility plans. Are the structures going to have their own, every structure is going to have their own utility meter? And if so, they need to show that. We need to identify, because this is a very cramped area, where is the waste receptacle going to go? What we've faced or we've encountered in the past when we have structures that are built out like this is a lot of times the polycarts end up on city property and they stay on city property. That becomes a nuisance if the polycarts are filled with trash, they end up blowing into the street or neighboring properties. So we need to identify clearly where that's going to be, not only for our sake, but for our waste providers' sake. And lastly, I just want to make it very clear to the applicant or anybody else that was listening is that public parking is not reserved for this particular building or or businesses. It's public property, so that means there's no reservation and it's not dedicated to anybody, and that's how it will remain. So with that, city staff is recommending approval for each of the variances because we feel that this property is unique in itself and it meets the requirements for a variance. And just duly noted, there's a lot of times I probably won't be recommending approval for variances, but in this instance, it met all the check marks. And I think if the code was to apply to this particular piece of property, a lot of the residential units or commercial units would subside. And the city staff does not believe that's the best use of the property for the downtown corridor or within the MRA. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vedra. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Saavedra?
I have one, Mayor. I was just curious if, Stephen, if you know why the applicant isn't on here tonight.
I don't know. I could speculate. I would imagine it has a whole host of issues related to just connectivity. They were made aware. I did talk to the architect today. He had asked if he would want to join. It was clearly up to the applicant, to the architect. For whatever reason, I'm just gonna, for the sake of positivity, just gonna believe that it was connectivity issues, and that's the issue why.
Okay, and the only reason I ask is I'm just trying to get their pulse on it. If they just decided, oh, hey, we're not going to show up because we don't think we need to do this, or if the conversation between you and them have been pretty good.
Conversations between property owner, contractor, and architect have been very good. Been primarily working a lot with the contractor. He's been very good almost every step of the way, calling me every other day. He asked if he should chime in, but he did not feel that this was his expertise. He's only the contractor. Though he's putting the structures up or hopes to put them up, he did not feel that he might overstep his bounds. And I thought that was appropriate.
Yeah, that's exactly what I needed to hear, just that there has been conversations and that for whatever reason they're not here, but we have all the information we need. So thank you.
Okay, I'm scanning the landscape and I'm not seeing anybody kind of raising their hand or unmuting. So with that, and we don't have the applicant or any other party, so I'm going to go ahead and close this land use hearing to testimony and open it up to discussion for the commissioners. And thank you, Mr. Saavedra, for the thorough report. So commissioners, anybody have anything they would like to add or any questions? You do a motion on this.
Just
Mayor Pro Tem.
just a comment in support of affordable housing. I think that's an important area of apartments to the city and in being the downtown area. So that's all.
Mr. Mayor, I
Commissioner
was echoing my thoughts, which we need more affordable housing, which is always a good thing. And also historically, that's how this property has been in use for multi-use and without the parking, whatever. So I don't think it's going to be a real impediment to the area. I think it'll be a plus.
Right, it's not new construction or anything like that. It's not adding, it's just been out of commission for a little while because of the incident, the fire they had there. So, it'll probably actually be a better property in the long run now, after that happened, and thankfully nobody got injured significantly, and I think it's going to be a positive thing for the downtown area for folks that could live and shop and do all that stuff. It's, walkable, etc. So I feel pretty comfortable with it personally. Does anybody else, any other commissioners want to add to that before we close discussion? I'm going to go ahead and close discussion and entertain a motion for land use hearing item B.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve variance 20-1, a request from Christopher P. Engel for variance to City of COA 26-3-171 in parentheses 1, 26-3-17, and 26-3-152 with the following conditions. Please resubmit clear and detailed construction plans, utility plans, and identify the location of the dumpster and/or polycarts area of the subject property. 2, an area needs to be shown and dedicated for the dumps or polycarts per COA 21-27. And 3, public parking along Main Avenue and West Truska does not belong or reserve to any private party, business, or residential units.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye?
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you, everybody. I believe we are now on to commission department head reports.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Just wanted to continue to commend staff. We continue to have challenges related to the ongoing pandemic, and when those arise, everybody steps up to get things taken care of and make things happen. So just kudos once again to staff. On another note, if you'll remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about monitoring for drought and all that good stuff. Well, how quickly things can change. Thank goodness we're getting some rain now. And on the flip side of that, having to address some flooding concerns from a few residents in town. So we're working through those as well. So just brief comment on the water, and we'll continue to monitor if we do find ourselves into a little bit drier situation. And thanks, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gobble?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief as well. I'd just like to commend Mr. Mueller, the staff, the commission, for a lot of the things and a lot of foresight and a lot of thinking outside the box regarding some of the COVID restrictions that have impacted the local economy and local businesses in Aztec, specifically the temporary use permits. I know that there's been a lot of issue with Aztec's neighbors regarding businesses and kind of some of their restrictions that they're unable to use parts of city property. But I think that you guys are doing an awesome job. I just wanted to commend you guys and hope you guys keep up the good work. I know it's tough navigating through these uncertain waters, but I've ran into a lot of issues lately, and I know a lot of other businesses outside of Aztec, specifically restaurants, have had some issues just operating and have been cited and stuff like that. So I'm going to commend you guys for thinking outside the box and necessarily tackling some of this stuff and giving our businesses avenues to operate and earn some income during these times. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Padilla?
I just want to thank our city manager for not having COVID, because him and I sat side by side during the COD meeting.
I think we'll all second that one.
Yeah. And that was the first thing when I saw the email. My wife happened to be sitting there, and she said, "Well, how close to you were him?" I said, "Well, we were rubbing shoulders." So, but the COG meeting to me was pretty boring. There wasn't much went on. We did some correction on the way they have our staffing with Aztec. So, and then Mayor, I want to thank you for letting me be a participant in the airport board meeting. I know I'm not on that committee, but I thought that you handled that very well. And hopefully we'll have some decent response from them and be able to put that subject to bed.
I concur. Thank you for the comments, and I appreciate, the historical background and knowledge that you were able to kind of add to as well. So I think, that was a good combination. So I appreciate that. Thank you as well. Commissioner Lewis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I was not able to attend the opioid misuse meeting. the other day because I had an unexpected staff meeting I had to attend for work, which was unfortunate, but it just came up, so that's the way it was. I have something I'd like to point out. Actually, he's not online, he's not on the meeting tonight, but I still want to commend Chief Heel for something he's done recently. There was a situation that arose between face coverings and some local youth and other residents. And it started off in a very contentious manner because the citizen was given incorrect information, and not by a City of Aztec employee, but by a county employee. And luckily, Chief Heel was able to step in and soothe the ruffled feathers, so to speak, and take care of the situation. And there was even apologies given by some of the offended parties. So I think he worked out beautifully, and I think we don't often see this kind of act. This is what we call community policing, and I think he does it very well. And I think he should be remembered for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Randall?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I did end up getting on the lodger's tax meeting a little late. I had some stuff come up at work, and by the time I got on, shockingly, they were almost done. Usually those things drag on, but I did hear that they're looking for a new member. I believe it's a business owner. So Caroline's that, getting the news out. So if anyone is interested, they can probably contact Sherilyn on the specifics on that. And other than that, I did want to say, obviously commend Kathy and the finance staff, and, I guess did get some credit for another year of a healthy budget, even with everything going on, in really good shape. And it's just nice to know that people that we trust watching out for that. And I think we're going to have, as hard as it's going to be, I sleep well at night knowing that there's people in those positions that keep an eye on things. So thank you very much, Kathy and Steve and the rest of the finance staff. And also Steven Saavedra on our staff summaries. I know in the past, years in the past, we didn't get enough information out of some of our previous community development directors. And there for a while, it seemed like we were getting too much information, but these last few staff summaries have been good information, exactly what we need. And like I've said on other meetings, it may look like we're sitting up here and we don't care, or we're not asking enough questions. And that's because the staff summaries are so good. We have all of our questions answered, and it's very straightforward on what's going on. So I really appreciate that. And that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Randall. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I attended the San Juan County Partnership board meeting, and as I've reported, they have a new director, and sounds like she's got a handle on things. Things are going smoothly, and they're taking care of business. I did connect with one of the employees at San Juan County Partnership. Patience Williams is working with people who are interested in community gardens. And I have citizens approaching me about why doesn't Aztec have a community garden? So I'm going to be gathering information from Patience to present to EDAB and to talk more about that, what it takes to actually have community gardens. I also talked with Mr. Mueller and found out we had 17 canopies that the city could allow restaurants or businesses to use if they would. And Sandy Wayburn and I think Mike was also helpful in contacting restaurants and so forth and saying, hey, we've got canopies. You can, have outdoor dining to increase your customer opportunities. But at this point, nobody has taken up a canopy use. I did notice Aztec Restaurant and of course Rubio's has put a major canopy over the plaza. So we'll keep, inviting them to do this so that we can help the businesses in Aztec. I attended EDAB, and we had a realtor report on what she has been discovering of people moving down to Aztec and New Mexico because of the very high cost of housing in Durango. So we did discuss that about how we continue to attract people from, retirees or whatever to take the opportunity for more affordable housing in our area. And I hope she'll be a regular. She was very sharp, and it's Russ Allen's daughter. I can't remember the name, but she's very good. Hope she'll come again. I guess that's about it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll try and keep this brief as well. Speaking of Chief Hill, I also heard about that little dust up with one of my residents and some local teenage boys, I think is what it boiled down to. And I appreciate Chief's patience and steady hand. And I just want to tell him that he's if he's listening or if somebody talks to him, he's been in my thoughts, and I'm sure many others. His mom passed away recently, so going through a little bit of a time as well with him and his family. So just know that we're thinking of him and his family and wishing the best for him and all of his friends and loved ones. The very next day after the last meeting, I had a foresaid, I believe it's called an executive committee board meeting, and it was fairly straightforward. We just, some of the things that Mr. Trujillo had mentioned about the fiscal agent for the growers, the Four Corner or the San Juan County growers was executed, and I had to sign as a signatory kind of thing for that. But other than that, it was pretty cut and dried, nothing major there. And we say it every meeting, but I don't think we could say it enough. The appreciation that we have and not that I know a lot of other elected officials around the country or around the area really, but occasionally when we get these municipal league things going and you hear a little bit of griping and complaining, and sure, we don't always agree on everything here in the city, back and forth on our side or their side or both, but I do want to just continue to echo what everybody else has been saying about how lucky we are to have the caliber of staff from the top to the bottom, commissioners included. I think we've all done a really good job of handling this. We've taken staff input and let them do their jobs, and we've just kind of done our job as oversight and let them run drive the train. And they've done a fantastic job. And again, I say this all the time, I would stack our staff up against anybody in the country. And I'm proud to be part of this. And, it's really fantastic to see these folks adapt and to continue to do such a great job under odd circumstances. So again, thank you, everybody. I have gotten some comments from some of my neighbors regarding some of the flooding stuff, and they were very complimentary about how quickly everybody got out there to at least see what they could do. It doesn't mean we're going to be able to do anything tomorrow, but half the time, folks just want to know that they're being heard and their concerns are being at least tried to being addressed. And I think that's the big thing that our staff is so good at, is that, we do our very best and they do their very best to address concerns and at least give them reasonable expectations and make things happen. So thank you again. School, many of you, well, not many of you, one of you have school-age children on the commission, but I'm sure there's some other on the call maybe that have heard that there's been some changes, due to the governor's kind of pumping the brakes on opening schools. Teachers are going to be back on the 5th. Online classes start on the 10th. And Commissioner Randall, I believe you have probably seen, or maybe your wife has seen, the link to start enrolling online and do things like that. If you haven't, check with the school website and they'll get you lined out. But yeah, it's kind of change 75, and we're not going to have bodies in the classroom until after Labor Day, and that's just going to be the younger kids, the K through 5. And then assuming things go well with that, we're doing middle school and then high school. So as you're talking to people out there, just remind them that, and I say this as a teacher too, we're just like the rest of us, we're all kind of figuring this out as we go. We didn't get hired to be online instructors, so there's going to be some imperfections for sure and some inconsistencies. But no, at least from my experience with my peers at the high school, they really are doing the best they can. And some of this Google Classroom stuff is a little tricky for folks that have technical expertise, let alone for some of it that are of maybe an earlier generation. So just be patient, that's all I can say. And try, take a deep breath before you whack the teacher for the head, virtually with a screaming match or whatever, and just, we're trying, we're adjusting fire just as much as everybody else is. So I appreciate the community and everybody's wearing masks, or pretty much everybody. I think we've seen a huge improvement in that. And, maybe if we continue that within the next couple of weeks or a month or so, we might be able to get some relief on some of these lockdowns. So, everybody for everything you do, and I will open it up to department heads. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So just very brief, I just wanted to just remind everyone, we got the our first public online meeting on Thursday. So I know some individuals have had issues with this link in terms of registering. If they've had, or if you know anyone, please direct them to me so we can get them squared away. This link right here seems to do it. But as a reminder, the comp plan is truly is important when we discuss some of these zoning issues. It really starts at the comp plan, landscaping, parking requirements, mobile homes, things of that nature. So I know it's late on a Thursday. I know everybody is busy, but I will say so far, a lot of the surveys, we've been having extraordinary numbers. And I think I'm just going to be positive. I guess with the stay-at-home orders, people are at home and taking surveys, and so maybe there's not a whole lot, so maybe they can participate where we haven't seen the participation in the past. But it is an online meeting. It's not ideal for a lot of reasons, but we're trying to work with it as best as we can. So I just encourage you or anybody that you know to participate, take part. It really is about the community shaping the future of Aztec. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Stephen, because I had a little note and I overlooked it. And I know that we all have lives. Austin's got little ones, and we all have our things going on. I plan to be there at least to listen, and I would encourage as many of us that are on this call to tell a friend, and if you can at least hop in for a little while, I'm sure it would be appreciated just to show a little bit of participation on our part. Because it's difficult for us to kind of fuss at people for not getting involved if we're not involved ourselves. So do your best, and I know we might have things pre-scheduled, but do your best to hop in there if you can and at least hear what's going on and some of the input. I think it would be appreciated for sure. And are there any other department heads that would like to comment or make a report? All right. Going once, gone. All right. I guess meeting is adjourned at 7:44. Everybody have a lovely evening. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Hey, Carla, can I come tomorrow and sign stuff?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll be there sometime in the morning. I'll text you first. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, y'all have a good night. Thanks.
Carla, do you have anything for me to say, Stein?
I do.
Okay, I have some stuff tomorrow morning. It may be Thursday until I can get out there unless you have something urgent that needs to be done tomorrow.
Thursday's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
You guys be safe.
You too.
Cocktail time. Are we muted?
Yeah, not yet.
We're done.
Now they're gonna be calling me COVID Mueller after you brought that up.
I do need 2 signatures. Unless you want to come in the morning, that's fine too.
Hell no.
All right.
No, you didn't offer me a deli bar. So. Where he lives? No.
Yeah, I'll never